All right, let us talk about Ventanas Restaurant and Bar because this place is currently sitting at the very top of Punta Cana's restaurant scene, a perfect 5.0 out of 5 and ranked number 1 in the entire area. That is an enormous claim to live up to. So let's dig into where it is, what people are loving, what's tripped a few guests up, and then we'll recalculate the rating using only the last 6 months of reviews to see if that perfect score is holding steady in real time. First, let's talk location because this is generally one of the more convenient spots in the whole Punta Cana restaurant scene. Ventanas sits right on Boulevard Turístico del Este at the Cana Pearl complex, essentially in the heart of the tourist corridor. It's just over a third of a mile from the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, and multiple reviewers specifically mention it right next to the casino, close enough that staff have arranged free golf cart transportation over it after dinner. It also overlooks a golf course, which shows up again and again in reviews as a huge part of the atmosphere. Guests describe watching the sunset over the fairway from a rooftop sitting area with live music playing in the background. So, if you're staying anywhere along that boulevard or you are already planning a night at the Hard Rock Casino, this is about as centrally located as it gets. And multiple reviewers who were staying at nearby Airbnbs in the area, like Uverno Alto, mentioned the restaurant arranging taxis home for them, so it's accessible even if you're not resort based. Now, let's get into what people actually liked, because that's a really consistent pattern across the reviews. The single biggest theme is the staff, and I mean that literally. Guests name drop specific servers and managers constantly. Names like Hector, Louis, Estable, and the owner himself, Christopher, come up over and over, with guests describing personal touches like flower petals on a table for a birthday, free transportation arranged on the spot, and the owner personally making guests feel like family. One reviewer who said he's a restaurateur himself in the area specifically called out Christopher's presence a constant but discreet, and said it turned a simple dinner into an evening with friends. That's a pretty remarkable thing to hear from someone who runs a competing business. On the food side, the recurring stars are the garlic shrimp, described by one guest as the star of the night, thanks to the bread at the bottom of the dish soaking up all the sauce, the crispy snapper, the Angus burger, and a salmon over mushroom risotto that one reviewer said was the best risotto her husband ever had, despite normally disliking mushrooms entirely. There's also a strong value narrative running through these services and reviews. Multiple guests specifically call out the price to quality ratio as unmatched, with one guest getting a filet mignon for under $30 and calling it unbeatable anywhere else in the area. And atmosphere-wise, the rooftop setting, the golf course views, and the live jazz music get mentioned constantly as reason it feels like a special occasion restaurant rather than just another dinner spot. Now, what didn't people like? Well, honestly, across the sample we pulled, there's really only one substantial negative review in a recent stretch. But it's worth walking through because it's detailed. One of the guests visiting in March of 2026 had a rough night. His first choice of steak wasn't available. The replacement steak came out tough. Service was slow, and he had to ask multiple times just to get bread on the table. But here's the interesting part. He also mentioned that the restaurant owners was seen walking his dog through what the guests assumed was public dining space. The restaurant actually responded directly to this review and clarified that the area the guest had wandered into was a rooftop, which was reserved that night for a private event, and that the confusion came from a guest accessing a restricted area. So it sounded like a genuine one-off mix rather than a pattern. And looking at the rest of the 6-month window, there's nothing else remotely close to that level of complaint. No other recent reviews mentioned slow service, food quality, or availability problems. So now let's get into the numbers. The restaurant's all-time rating is a perfect 5.0 out of 5 from 300 plus reviews on TripAdvisor, which is generally rare for a restaurant with a sample size that large. But you asked for a recalculation based specifically on the past 6 months, so let's do that. Looking at reviews published between mid-2026 and today, we've got a sample of 10 reviews. 9 of them are 5, glowing, specific, and packed with staff shoutouts and food details. The 10th is that 1-star review in March. So when you average all these 10 together, you get a 6 months rating of 4.6 out of 5. So here's the honest takeaway. This isn't a restaurant that's just resting on all reviews from years ago. The overwhelming majority of what people have said in the last 6 months back up that elite reputation. 5-star reviews are still rolling in weekly. Staff are still getting name checked constantly, and the food and value themes are completely consistent with the restaurant long-term record. The recalculated 4.6 isn't just a red flag at all. Is that what you'd expect any real restaurant to land at once your factor in a single rough night? If in this thing, the one dip is an otherwise perfect run makes the rating feels more trustworthy. Bottom line, if you're near the Hard Rock Casino corridor in Punta Cana and you want a rooftop dinner with golf course view, live music, and service that people still are raving about 6 months later, Ventanas is very much earning its number 1 spot right now.